Hi, everyone. It's Julie. I really enjoyed my conversation with Jesse Tillman Pitts, the author of Living with Purpose, the Tillman Framework for Activities in Senior Living. Jesse talks about, the impact, shares some data around the impact of occupancy growth in communities that he's worked with in robustifying, is that a word? The engagement, activities, programming. This is an area of opportunity across the board. We can't keep doing what has been done 20 years ago. What our residents or prospective residents do, what's our life going to be like? Certainly care, food, critically important. But what about engagement? Oftentimes engagement is kind of maybe an afterthought, and it shouldn't be. So Jesse, if you're interested in his book, it's available on Amazon. Enjoy his input, his expertise, and thank you again for listening.
This episode of the Grow Your Occupancy podcast is sponsored by Yardi. The Yardi Senior Living Suite combines resident care, marketing, sales, finance, business intelligence, pharmacy, and operations, all on a Cloud Forbes 100 ranked, cloud hosted HIPAA and SOX compliant software platform. The suite of products is single stack, uniting on a fully integrated platform. It offers intuitive functionality that helps provide the best care and improved health outcomes across your communities.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. I'm Julie Podewitz, welcoming Jesse Pitts to the show. Hi, Jesse.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. And tell you a little bit about Jesse, who is an author. He's going to tell us all about his book, Living with Purpose, today. He's a regional director, consultant, and author, a two-time Latin Grammy nominated drummer and producer. Have to talk more about that. Dedicated to raising standards in senior living through practical, outcomes-driven strategy. With his work at Angel Senior Living and Aravine Consulting, Jesse brings a real operator's lens to improving quality of life for residents, families, staff, and investors. He is the author of Living with Purpose, the Tillman Framework for Activities in Senior Living. Very excited to have you on the show. Jesse, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about the book and what your objective is in writing this book, Living with Purpose.
So the book comes from my own work with activities professionals as part of running communities. I found that position specifically was challenging to fill with people that were doing the standard that I wanted to have. It's not something that people typically go to school for, have a very robust form of training inside of it. Oftentimes it's people who have come into this field, love it, and want to help, and they develop their career that way. And there was one particular facility that I was working with, and we went through a couple of them, and I tried getting some people with experience. I tried to get in someone right from the beginning, and it was a challenge. So I decided to write sort of a manifesto of not just what I wanted them to do, but how they should view activities and engagement. And it was the idea of, hey, here's this resource, take it, learn from it, and then you'll have a structure and a philosophy and way to go about doing things where I know you'll be successful. And after writing it, I said, well, let me not just keep it for my own personal use. If I've struggled with this, I'm sure other people have found a need for this. So let me write a book for it and put it out there to where if people are struggling with that, they can take it if you're an activity professional and you feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't feel like there's scaffolding that I can draw off of even to do my own thing. This is a great
Right.
resource for you.
Great. So it's a playbook, in other words, for engagement, activities and engagement for senior living.
Yes, ma'am.
It's so needed. You know, I've been in senior living for many years, and you've got a lot of experience yourself. And I mean, it's beyond time, right? To go from kind of where activities was and where it needs to be, where it is in a lot of cases, but where it really needs to be now. Would you agree? I mean, gone are the days of here are the four things that are happening, and we're sort of as a sidebar, and we're sort of kind of repeating, and we're saying the same thing Monday through Friday. And oh my goodness, by the way, there's no activity, nothing happening on the weekends because there's no one on staff to do that. So we're going to put movies on and things like that. I mean, we hope gone are those days, or they should be gone, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What worked 20 years ago is just it's not competitive from a sales and marketing standpoint. It's not going to drive any differentiation. And then from a resident quality of life, if you don't have a robust engagement platform, then you're really drawing on other forms of the business, which tends to draw in higher acuity. And there's nothing wrong with higher acuity, but we're missing things on the table. You know, independent living and the active adult lifestyle. Those centers are seeing growth right now. And I think that's a real area where we should look at. And one of the focuses on this book too, I don't want it to be something where people see it as a cost. I don't want it to be seen as a burden. So I don't focus any of my stuff on amenities, because if you're a portfolio and you have new builds, you can do whatever you want. But most portfolios also have legacy buildings. You might have a mid-market approach. You might have a value-based, and you can't do much with those amenities if you don't have them. So I try to put it on wherever you're at, whatever your income level and availability is. Let's see what we can do to drive the engagement through activities.
Meaning, when you say you're not focused on amenities, you mean like the community itself. You're not saying, hey, build a swimming pool and let's have water aerobics if in fact they don't have a swimming pool. Your book outlines is a playbook, like you said, like a step-by-step sort of outline around building engagement, purposeful engagement considering all budgets.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. If you have a swimming pool, that's great. If you have a sauna, if you have a pickleball court, that's great. But if you don't have that, you can still have wonderful engagement. You can have a great sense of community. I liken it to my wife and I. One of our favorite date night activities is getting a Walmart frozen pizza. We don't always have to go and do a fancy dinner. It's about that quality time.
Sure.
And when we're building engagement and community, it's the same thing. It's about how connected are you. You can spend tons of money and throw a party where no one walks away happy. Or you can have a Super Bowl party with chips, dip, hot dogs, buffalo wings, non-alcoholic beer, and everyone's having a great time. You invite the family out. The kiddos are playing football in the grassy area or garden area. It's all about that connection. It's not as much about what you're spending or what you have in your budget. It's how you view it, how you craft it, and the intentionality behind the planning and the execution.
You know, you talk about budget, and we're all needing to be very prudent in these areas, but the engagement activities, if you will, is I'm a sales and marketing, and that's typical. Oh, we're going to cut marketing budgets, and the budgets for sales support usually is nil. But another area that's really low is the engagement or activities. And I don't want to speak for all activities or engagement directors, certainly, but that's a continued challenge. Like, what am I supposed to do with such a limited budget? And the operators and owners do certainly the care, of course, the wellness, the dietary. I mean, that those are very important. And activity engagement sort of can be a second or an afterthought. But in order to drive occupancy and drive interest, we've got to uh, provide, right, that day-to-day engaging life. And to your point, maybe a higher end, maybe 55 plus or 65, 75 plus active adult or retirement level, or the higher in IL, they've got the higher budgets and they are, oh, well, and look at all of what we're doing. And sometimes, maybe not more than sometimes, the higher acuities activities get overlooked. Would you say that's fair statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The activities segment has a tendency to get overlooked very frequently. And often it's viewed as a cost, not so
Right,
much a real benefit. And I
right,
think a lot of that misconception comes around where you don't have a direct result for it. And it's kind of like a billboard. You want to put in ways to draw exactly how many people came from this so you can link it.
right.
And when we're talking about good engagement, nothing translates directly from that. It's the goodwill that you get. So it's an indirect, but very powerful. If you have a good activities program, your word of mouth is going to increase. If you have a good activities program that can draw in a younger crowd, your average length of stay is going to see an increase. You can also look at it with increased word of mouth from bringing into families. That's going to reduce placement agency costs because you're increasing that word of mouth. If you have good relationships where families, where your facility is not a place where you remember something bad happened, but you remember the Christmas party, you remember the Thanksgiving party, you remember the Sunday afternoon meals with mom and dad, then when they start to see the facility as a home for their
Mhm.
loved one and like their parents' home that they're visiting. So when little mistakes happen here and there, they're not coming from it from a stranger's point of view. They're coming at it from a point of view of, oh no, I know this place. They're awesome. I've worked with them. I've had parties with them. We went and saw the movie that they had in their theater. We baked cookies for Christmas together. So it increases that goodwill. Your staff also are able to see
Mhm.
such a high quality of life. So everyone talks about, creating a wonderful work culture and having this and that. But as you know, from a marketing thing, what you say is the least important. It's what you do. And
Mhm.
so this is a way to actually show what you're doing. And I think it works hand in hand with a marketer to where this should be a huge part of what you're serving because everyone has to offer a baseline minimum standard from the state that they're in. There are regulatory minimums that have to be hit. I see a lot of places that put that sort of stuff out there in their marketing materials. Some states require it, but it's kind of marketing the minimums. It's almost as though a electrician
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, we can fix your electricity issues."
Like, right, right.
Versus this is a
Mhm.
differentiator to say,
Right.
we're selling this life, we're
Mhm.
selling this care, we're selling this compassion, and above all, we're selling a community. That's what you're coming into is a community of other people. You won't
Mhm.
like all your neighbors, but you didn't like all your neighbors before. You're going to make new friends, make new memories,
Right.
and that's the goal.
Yeah. We're the three-legged stool, has been discussed with the operations, sales, and care, wellness, right? The three-legged stool, but where's where's engagement in that discussion? Where is dining? Where's all the housekeeping, the maintenance? It's so much more than a three-legged stool. Engagement should be so tied into sales, right? And so oftentimes we're not necessarily, and I'll speak from the front end on the sales side, maybe we're not considering that the impact. Maybe we are, I'm not sure. I'm going to read to you, I'm going to read to everybody. So I asked Jesse about outcomes because how your engagement, your activities, and what your residents are doing impacts everything, like he mentioned. so you increased, not you, but the team that you implemented some of your best practices on engagement, increased the small memory care community from 39% to 100% in just 4 months, maintaining 95% stabilized occupancy 6 months as you were tracking that, achieved 54% reduction in resident outflow, so the back door, over a 12-month period, ending just this last month through a philosophical management shift center on resident experiences, because certainly makes sense, right? If we're providing, or community is providing, day-to-day engagement, things to do. Why? Adding to the why. Why should they leave their home? In care, of course, drives in assisted living memory care. Care is a driver. Food is a driver. What about engagement? What about what we're doing? What are some of the, can you give a specific example, like what did you do or what was a team doing in these cases specifically, like the small memory care? What type of engagement that you feel is like out above and beyond, out of the ordinary for that community?
So what we did for that community in particular is we were not hitting good standards when it came to any kind of activities. And what the first problem that I saw is we were pushing main activities, one main activity at a time. Well, the problem, I won't say problem, the challenge with a memory care facility, whenever we're working with dementia, is everybody's having their own day. And it's unique to them, and it's unique to, I don't even want to say that hour, it's unique to that minute. And trying to hold their attention to something for an extended period of time is unfair to them. It's unfair to the staff. I don't think it's a good way to operate. So I worked with some of my colleagues, Janelle and Susan, and we came up with engagement stations. And the idea with this is these were more passive areas where we could redirect residents to work on something. Sometimes it was tactile, as in for the men putting together PVC pipes. For the women, as much as I hate folding laundry, we had 2 residents that loved folding laundry. We did scented napkins or scented washcloths where they could go feel that. We had an art set up, and we would vary them. And then we'd also have our main activity. And we doubled this up with family events. So we still had our main activity, but we brought in these engagement stations. We brought in family specific events. So we brought in we started a memory care support group where families could come in and talk to things. We didn't want to keep the families out. We wanted to bring them in. We set that up for them. We started doing the family nights. We invited them out. We upped our communication. It's a huge thing to be able to communicate. When we see something doing good, let's send that. Let's say, hey, mom's wearing that new shirt that you brought. We listen to complaints. If there was a complaint about mom's fingernail polish is not doing well, we want to make a note of that and say, well, that's a concern of yours. That's a concern of ours. So let's do a nail day. Let's send pictures, and let's make a note to 1 week from now, follow up with a picture again. So they don't think, oh, I complained, they did it right once, now it's going to happen again. No, we wanted to show that we're thorough, that we're continuing that. And from a wandering standpoint with these engagement stations, we didn't just do it during activity time. They're most important during your hardest times. So when you're getting everyone up, and when you're putting everyone to bed, when you're doing changes, when you're doing anything like that, where the staff is more one-on-one with an individual resident, well, that's a time where wanderings are going to increase. That's a time where your supervision, even if you have 100 staff members, your supervision is going to be less than 100 because people are working with residents. So let's set that up there to where they can be directed to this. not start doing wandering, not start getting into things that they shouldn't. And then when families come in, they're seeing this, they're seeing they're engaged, they're seeing that we care and that we're switching them out based on what they like. There's something to be said for a family coming in and someone's working with Miss Jane Doe. They say, oh, Miss Jane, you don't like the puzzle today. Well, how about this? We're gonna do some ice cream over here. Why don't we do that? And then we call the families. We say, hey, just want to let you know, mom's been losing a little bit of weight, but we brought her into the ice cream social today, and she's been doing that. So we're going to continue that.
So communication, listening, what's important, the engagement stations, one-on-one, breaking out of everybody's got to be involved in one thing. I think that's certainly, it's knowing something is the first step, but actually doing it and executing on it and communicating and following up and people feeling seen and heard. One challenge, I'll say, that we hear a lot from the sales side is there isn't a lot going on in our memory care. When we tour, families are like, well, what are people doing? And what advice would you give to this on the sales side? Because understanding you can't constantly be, 24 hours a day, everybody's doing something and it's all a hub of activity, which isn't necessarily the goal either. But what advice would you give a salesperson and activity or engagement, both memory care assisted or at any level, to help kind of circumvent, especially in memory care, where it's like, there isn't anything going on. Families are wondering, what's happening? What's my mom going to do?
I would start with a conversation. So the sales and marketing should understand what the current memory care routine is. So if right after lunch, we're clearing tables, we're changing people, we're changing any clothes that might have gotten some food on it. Well, if you're wanting to sell activities, that's one of the worst times to come because right now we're not doing an activity. We're getting everyone finished from lunch and cleaned up, make sure hands are washed and everything's good.
Sure.
On the flip side, activities should talk to memory care and say, hey, this is the kind of thing that I want to be able to show. How can we best do that? So maybe it's something where you try to schedule tours right after that lunch period or right before it when we're doing a main activity. You have a pop-in. If the sales and marketing team understands the structure of memory care, they can lead with that. Hey, yeah, come on in. We're just getting finished up with lunch. And so they're going to be checking everybody, changing any shirts that need to be changed. If they have any pants, they're going to be making sure everyone's hands are clean. And then in probably about 30 minutes, we're going to be setting up our next activity. But let me show you through here. Right now, we're not conveying that there's no activity. Right now, we're conveying we're on a schedule, we're on a routine, we know what we're doing. And there's no activity right now because we're taking care of mom, dad, husband, wife.
Right, sure. I like that, that communication around for a prospect too, is what to expect, period. But especially with the memory care neighborhood, or maybe some higher acuity, or it's quiet, in assisted living, it's quiet, or it's whatever time of day, because we never want to stop touring, of course, but to kind of recap or lay out that expectation or a heads up, not as an excuse, but just as a fact of life. If it's going to be a little bit more action oriented, if you will, at whatever time, 10 a.m., then it might be at 4:30 or 3 in the afternoon, whatever the timing is. Can you give an example, Jesse, of can you give some specific examples, like you talked about activity stations, things like that, but what is, like, from your book, some cost-effective happenings, events, engagement that you're seeing residents really enjoy and partake in? What's something you would want people to add to their engagement calendar?
Yeah, so My book is very much so based on philosophies and ways to think. There's two things that I found that are very, very powerful and that should be used more often. And they're not going to be a specific, hey, do this activity, because I believe you should have variety. Rather, it's two little tricks. The first is food. So a lot of times you can have good activities, but you don't have the amount of participation to get people out and try it. Hey, we're doing this awesome series on painting. Let's say we're in independent living or assisted living, and we've got a whole schedule for painting like the Impressionists. Don't just invite someone out to that. Don't tell your residents. Have food too. People will come for fun foods.
Mhm.
So if you can group an activity like that along with food, your participation rate will increase.
Mhm.
Now, have meaningful food. Meaningful doesn't mean expensive. But if we're doing a Christmas activity, Christmas is coming up. Don't say we're going to have graham crackers and coffee. No, let's
Mhm.
have hot chocolate and peppermint cookies or peppermint brownies.
Mhm.
Have something themed to it that gets people out there to it. You can have a lot of success just by adding that food or drink element in there and just giving a few minutes to thought of how could food apply to this? How could I kind of theme it, if you will, to what we're doing? The second thing is family involvement. You can find a lot of ways to involve families with things, including, I'll give a Christmas event again. One of the things I'm working on a template for one of the buildings is I want to do Christmas cookies. But I want to take it a layer deeper. Let's do family recipes.
Mhm.
So now I can talk to the resident. Hey, what did you make?
Mhm.
Especially what was
Sure.
your Christmas cookie that
Mhm.
you would bring to this or Christmas treat?
Mhm.
Now we get the recipe.
Sure.
Now we call the family. Hey, we're going to be doing Christmas bake off this Saturday. Would you like to come join in? Oh no, I'm out of town. I wish I could make it. That's fine. That's fine. Hey, we'll set some aside. When you come back into town, swing by and pick some up
Mhm.
and say hello to your mother.
Mhm.
And by including the family, having the food elements, that's going to be right away. Those are big hits that you can get huge big will with your residents and with your family members. And one additional thing that I've kind of been hinting on in this is the idea of stretching a theme out. I think too many times we start with a good idea and we let it go. We say, okay, we're going to bake cookies. That's a great idea. We're going to stop there. No, really try to extract how much benefit could we get from baking cookies. So what you start is baking cookies. Now you're doing a family heritage recipe.
Mhm.
Now you're inviting the families out. How about additionally, we make them in a tin, we bake
Mhm.
extras, do a whole tin, and we ship them to the local fire stations. And we have
Mhm.
them write little cards. Hey, you guys, we're always grateful to see you. You're here when you need us.
Mhm.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for all
Sure.
that. Now we've added in a marketing event on it, but we've also allowed the residents to feel like they're contributing. I think we
Mhm.
underplay people's desire to give back. And I hate to say it, but sometimes people feel as though they've outlived their usefulness. And
Mhm.
it's not true. So if we can take something like cookies and give a purpose
Mhm.
to it where, hey, this is going to make a dent. My father's a retired firefighter. I know what it would mean to him to receive
Mhm.
something
Sure.
like that. And then the
Sure.
family can get involved. So taking a
Mhm.
theme and also seeing how far you could go with it. Like the
Mhm.
painting example. Most people do some sort of painting class. That's great. Let's say we're working with assisted living or independent living. Why don't we make this into a series where we follow different masters? And you don't have to have a lot of money for it because there's resources. I love Smart History. It's a website. It's free. It's a nonprofit. You can learn so much about the visual art history. It'd
Mhm.
be easy to have all these things together and have a whole week or a whole month where we're learning about this art, the residents are doing it, and then at the end of the month, let's take all the residents and let's go to a museum.
Mhm. Sure.
What?
So and really I have to piggyback on that. We're not shipping the cookies, we're bringing them, hand
Yes.
delivering for outreach. Yes, or asking them to swing by and pick up their cookies to make those extra connections. The, I do, like, so you're talking about themes and trying to expand out. What about day to day? Like what's working day to day? How, talk to me about what definites to have on the calendar and what do residents love to do and any trends that you're seeing that.
Yeah, so day to day, you want to make sure your activity calendar is balanced and that it's based on what the residents want. So in general, I recommend you have some sort of cognitive function, that you have some sort of physical function, that you have a creative function, that you have a social function, and that you have some sort of a spiritual function. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a sort of religious thing, but maybe even a reflective thing. Like I talked about, people feel like they've outlived their purpose, and that can lead
Sure.
to depression. Now you're in chemical interventions. It's something like that to where it addresses the person. So those are the 5 categories that I recommend you start off with. I think of that as your proteins, your carbohydrates, your
Sure.
fruits and veggies and dairy. From there, it's really important to get your resident feedback.
Yes, I
So
agree.
I
Feedback.
recommend,
Mhm.
yeah, you start with those 5
Mhm.
categories. And from there, your residents will tell you what they want to do, but you
Mhm.
have to systematically have a way where you say, we've done an activity. Okay, let me ask them. Let me talk to them.
Yes, to ask people
What,
what they want. Yes.
what
Yeah.
did you like this? Did you like,
Yes, of
no,
course.
the
Yeah.
exercise was lame. All we did was just do some wind circles. I want to do something more exciting. Okay, like what? Maybe you start a silver sneakers program, and if you
Mhm.
have a van, you pull your van back and forth from the silver sneakers. Maybe they like a socialization. Maybe they hate going to dinner because they're out too late and the traffic's bad. Breakfasts.
Mhm.
So
Sure.
getting that feedback from them and remembering the facility you have today is not the facility you have in 6 months. Not only does your demographic change, but your existing demographic just got 6 months older. We don't know what their specific conditions that led them into assisted living or independent living or memory care. We don't know how they've progressed in that 6 months. So feedback is not a one-time, I came into the
Sure.
facility, I
Sure.
talked to all the residents.
Yeah.
Every quarter, you should
Mhm.
have a full-on sort of a
Mhm.
survey. Hey, what do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of?
Sure, absolutely. Last question. What's your take on inviting prospects to resident events?
I think the absolute best thing you could do is hold regular family invited parties. Invite prospects out. You can invite them to anything, but I think family parties with the residents is best. And you say, hey, we've already spoken. I've talked to you a lot about this stuff. What I want you to do,
Mm-hmm.
have fun, go with your mom, talk to our people here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
absolutely. So,
transforms it entirely into word of, hey, how are you? You know, my mom's looking here. How long has
sure.
your family been here? Oh, they've been here 2 years. We love it.
Mm-hmm. And
But
I'm sorry, I said last question, but what is your take on memory care programming, assisted living programming? Do you have do you integrate? Do you have a separate programming for memory care, or is it our memory care residents are doing what our assisted living, independent living, it's just modified? Where is your stand on that?
I think you should have a separate calendar that exists as often as it can with the AL or IL calendar. I don't think it should be exactly the same because I don't want AL and IL to have to do something that's not as good for them because maybe it's more challenging to integrate it to a higher level of care. I don't think people who are higher level of care should have to be forced into an activity that really they just can't engage with because it's a little bit more independent. I think themes are really good. So like we spoke about the painting, please do not put on a 5-part documentary series on impressionist painting inside of a
Sure,
memory care facility.
sure, I
But
got it. But did the
let's do
theme in
something. Yes,
general, so
let's
you're
do
saying
something with
thematically,
art.
yes, similar and just adjust according to your
Exactly.
audience.
And
Yeah,
from a sales and marketing standpoint and from a
yeah,
family goodwill, you're not showing, hey, they're just doing completely their own thing. They're saying, hey, we're
sure.
a community.
Integrated,
Whether
sure,
you're in
sure.
this part of the community or this part of the
Yep,
community or this part of the community, we're all together. And it shows a baseline of respect for everyone.
sure, absolutely, absolutely. Well, where for those listening that want to read Living with Purpose, which I highly recommend, it's a great resource tool. Where can we get this?
So you can go onto Amazon and you can also go on to our website, aravineconsulting.com, and there is a link there as well.
So Amazon, Living with Purpose, Jesse Tillman Pitts.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for joining today on the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. Engagement, activities, why residents want to live in your community. This is just a critical component, not to be forgotten or undersold. Really appreciate your expertise and joining us today. Thank you all for sticking to the end. I really appreciate all of you so much for supporting one another in senior living and supporting everything that you all do to serve your residents, team members, and each other in the best industry possible. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Julie Podewitz with Grow Your Occupancy.
This episode of the Grow Your Occupancy podcast is sponsored by Yardi.